invited guests. We are all very glad to greet you from the Organizational Committee on the 8th Finance and Economic Moscow Forum. I think the topic is quite right. Building bridges, not walls. The business Eurasia under the new reality. In the new reality we are, not the first year already. Whether it's good or bad, it's not under discussion. We just leave it. Probably it would be better to not live in this reality, but nevertheless, we try to make an effort as Financial Business Association of Eurasiatic Cooperation to build opportunities to give more trust to each other, inclusively by using this platform as a traditional forum, which we are holding on the level of international community. I would like to say that annually our forum is supported by important organizations such as the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, the Eurasian Commission, the Department of Foreign Relations and Economic Relations of the government of the city of Moscow, the International Congress of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, and also the Internationale Wirtschaft of Berlin. I would like to say that the previous 7 congresses have gathered more than 4,000 participants from 38 countries of Europe, Asia, and Africa. And traditionally, the most numerous delegations were Russia, Germany, China, Kazakhstan, Italy, India, Romania, the Bulgaria and Armenia, France, Kyrgyzstan, the Western Africa, and representatives from other countries. In the past forums, we could discuss the most current topics, very wide range of questions connected to, first of all, the financial and economic cooperation on the territory of the Greater Eurasia, so-called Greater Eurasia. We were going on from the topic of developing economics, developing business relations between our countries. But all these questions we discussed from the point of view of business. We tried to not politicize it, which is one of the main secrets of our organization, which grows its resources and opportunities every year, solidifies its membership base. This is what attracts people under these circumstances. Different partners, different friends of ours, financial business associations of Eurasian corporations. It was very important for us that all the forums were held with quite active participation phase, not just those people who were present here in person, the colleagues who were discussing, but also people outside of the Golden Ring Hotel in Moscow. So the people joining us via internet online. We have a live stream now. We are using this relatively new technologies, digital technologies. I'm very thankful to our partners who support us. So 35 countries, people from 35 countries of Eurasia and Africa are taking part in our conference. This is, of course, the limits of the circumstances of the pandemic, but that also shows that we have this wide array of partners all over the world, all over the Greater Eurasia. I hope it will help to further the cooperation on this platform of the Eurasian cooperation. We've just started the plenary session. A number of our esteemed colleagues, we've asked them to have speeches here, and after the plenary session, so it will be 2 hours long. So by 12 o'clock, we should have finished Moscow time. And then there will be 3 parallel platforms, so discussing the digitalization of industry, the currency and finance provisioning for cooperation, and the transport logistic corridors, the infrastructure frameworks for Eurasian cooperation. So this choice of topics was based on the suggestions of the participants of the previous forum. Now I would also like to thank our partners who support, those who sponsored us. I would like to thank our official sponsors, the Promtech company, the World Council on Gold, and our memorable diplomas will be given to them, awarded to them. I would like to pass the floor to moderator Alexei Gromyko. Alexei, I greet you for the second time here. We asked this esteemed scientist, general manager of the Institute of Europe for the Russian Academy of Science, the corresponding member of the Russian Academy of Science. We asked him to become a moderator. Alexei successfully moderated our plenary session last year. So once again, I'm thanking you, Alexei, for doing this one more time today on our forum of 2021. I would like to read the greeting from the Minister of Economic Development of the Russian Federation to the participants of our forum. The Moscow International Financial Forum. So Maxim Reshetnikov is noting that all the different people are joining together to discuss the world trends and challenges. These events are important in post-crisis period, that from different countries and from different spheres we should maintain the dialogue for the sake of the growing of our economics. You joined together the 75 structures in 38 countries of Europe and Asia. You take part in prospective cross-border project. You further the cooperation and friendship. Russia is very interested in business unions grow bigger in their economic weight, that they gather the suggestions on regulatory frameworks, that they create opportunities for the realization of these suggestions. I wish the constructive dialogues to all the members of the forum and the success in your further work. Maxim Reshetnikov, the Minister of the Economic Development. Please, let's applaud to the Minister of Russian Federation. Alexander, I'm grateful for presenting the moderator. Dear colleagues, dear friends, it is a great honor to moderate the forum. It has already, a year has passed. This year was very intense and packed with events of different kind. Today, we are present in the framework of the already 8th Moscow International Financial and Economic Forum. The name is Building Bridges, Not Barriers, Business Eurasia in a New Reality. I would like to first of all, draw your attention to the name, which is quite tense. We have many meanings packed in it. Building bridges, not barriers, not walls. We talked a lot about walls. A lot was said maybe 30 years ago, already more than 30 years ago. But the world is going in the direction that we are once again facing these topics, how to be building bridges instead of walls, not the material barriers, the virtual barriers there. They continue to be built. Inclusively in Europe, in the Asian Pacific region. In 2021, it's a very current topic, very hot topic. We would like so that people would be joined by more things than they would be separated. Culture, geopolitics, economics, all the possible topics. Here we include the topic of the new reality. We frequently hear this now, the new norm, the new normality, the new normal. And indeed, 2021, if we compare it to the situation of 10 years ago, and maybe with the 2020 even, no doubt there are less and less skeptics who think that we are living the way we were living before. In both in economics and political life, the agenda on climate change, virtually in every sphere of our lives, there is some sense in discussing the concept that we live in some new world, though not forgetting that this world is built on the previous years and decades. And there is also the concept of the business Eurasia. And naturally, the meaning of this concept is how in this quite highly competitive world we can find a space for the spaces that are connected internally, that we can develop the relations between structures, between the states, and turn these spaces into the zones that are doing well on the global map. We will touch upon many topics connected with the space of financial centers, international banks, the business climate, the climate agenda, of course. And let me pass to the introduction of our session, of our meeting. With great pleasure, I would like to pass the floor to Dmitry Pankin, President and Chairman of the Board of the Black Sea Bank of Commerce and Development. The topic is transformation of international banks of development facing the new challenges. Dmitry, please. Please turn on the sound. Yes, thank you. Do you hear me? Yes, we hear you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. Dear colleagues, very hot topic is the building the bridges in Eurasia. For our institute is quite current topic. Our founders are EU countries, Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, Greece. We would like to build these bridges between the countries. That would be very current. That would be very interesting. Talking about the new reality, a few years ago, when we were talking about the development banks, so the infrastructure projects between countries, cross-border projects, the long projects demanding big investment, low interest rates, that's the role of the Banks of Development was in the building on the cooperation between the countries. That would probably be important and current. But what's the new reality? What have we been seeing in the last few years? The European Union last year, so the volume of emission, more than 4 billion euros. So the Treasury of the United States, $4 trillion. So it's more than all the previous period of when the Treasury and the European central banks were existing.
The international financial markets are flooded with money, and the percentage rates are negative in European community, almost on the zero level, and almost negative in dollar. So in this situation, the attraction of the long and cheap money for the infrastructural projects, generally, that's not a big issue, and any financial institution can provide you the 10-15 year money for the rate of 1.5%, even at the zero rate, a rate of interest. And in these conditions, we have a very important topic and a serious question. In this situation, what is the role of international banks for development? How do they differ from commercial banks? Do we need them? And how to live in these conditions of loan and cheap money? And I think this is a serious challenge for our community, international community of international banks for development and reconstruction. And at this very moment, we need to re-establish, to change our work. And as previously it was the bank sphere and the system to provide the loan cheap money, that's not enough now. And how do I see and perceive the role in these conditions, and what the banks should pay attention to? I think that first of all we mainly talk about the preparation of the project. Not enough to find the money, to provide the money. The main thing is to prepare the project, to calculate all the risks connected to the project, to establish the platform of interaction between the participants of the project. And especially it's important when we are talking about the between the country project. This is the dialogue of countries between the private and state segments, and to be this facility for discussing of interests between the participants. And I think that here we see the important role, the new role of international banks of development. And also I would like to pay attention to the questions of climate. Whether do we like it or not, the questions of the climate are in the center of all the international community, in the center of financial institutions. And now in European community everyone is discussing the Green Deal, the implementation since 2025, 2026, the implementation of serious climate taxes. These measures will touch many companies in Russia, in Turkey. There will be a serious shift of economy, and that will be a serious hit and blow on many export-oriented companies in our countries. How to prepare for this? Which measures are needed to be taken? These are the important questions of climate change. This can be in the center of the work of the banks of development. So the task is to prepare the project not only from the point of the financial explanation and calculation of the political risk. It's also very important to make the analysis of the climate risks and the consultation of the companies, and to companies how to decrease, how to diminish these risks connected to the climate, to the opportunities of the and the future taxes in the due course of implementation the project. And I see the main role of international banks for development. The question about the monetary calculations is also a very interesting question, and if the problems now connected to the international calculations, and if the problems are connected to the usage of dollar, euro, ruble currency, yuan, maybe Bitcoin, do we need here to bring some measures? Do we need some special role of international banks of development for establishing all the international calculations? So, in transactions, whether we want it or not, the reality is looking so that this system of transactions is already established. And what are the main problems now of the systems? This is not because the banks are not able to make the calculation, that the modern computer systems do not provide and give the opportunity for the carrying out the real-time calculations and transaction. The problem is a little bit different. The problem is that on the bank system we have the function of the tax bodies. This is the control for the income, control for the money laundering, and the bank system has a policeman function. This is the control for the financing of the terrorism, control for the connection to the political person. So once again, this is a general tendency in all the countries, and we see the situation in Russia, in the United States, in the European Union, and whether we want it or not, that will continue. And any opportunity to establish this parallel system, not controlled by the central bank, some special new currencies, either it will be Bitcoin or any other currency, or that will be some out of the border unofficial or illegal operations which are not talking about the serious financial flaws, or maybe we face into necessity of the control from the point of the tax bodies, and there will be the same problems in the calculations which we have now. So it seems to me that the calculation function, it's covered by commercial bank sector and some special efforts of international banks. I don't see any. Summing up my speech, I think that now we are in a new reality from the point of financial sector, from the point of international banks of development, and this era is over when any problem can be solved by just by establishment of a new bank. Let's make the bank of Asian infrastructure. Do we need to establish the relations between the countries of BRICS? Let's make a new bank of development where the participants of the BRICS countries will participate. Now this era is over, and the question is, will be able the new financial institutions and also all banks become the centers of knowledge, the centers of the competence, and participate in all these stages of the preparation of the project, of the risk analysis and the implementation in the future. Thank you very much for attention. Dmitry Vladimirovich, thank you very much. Applauses. Thank you for this interesting speech. You really grab this opportunity, as I tried also to pick in the title of our plenary session, and very brightly you expressed your opinion on some of the aspects of the new reality in which we live. You touched also methodological topic, whether we need the new structures, because we have old ones and quite a lot of them, and we need also to work over to make the structures adapt for the new reality and to use the opportunities which are provided for our life. And indeed, the new reality within the last 15 years, that's a deep two world recessions which were caused by the Great Recession, and the second one was caused by pandemic. And on this background, we have the phenomena of not only long and cheap money, but also the increase of the sovereign debts, and not only dark gray parts of this reality. Dmitry also mentioned the conference in Glasgow the Green Conference and the Green Deal, or Green Course or direction, and the project, which, from my point of view, is big, not of real things and challenges in the development of European Union, but also the project which is very vulnerable in the political aspect. And I faced recently this situation when in due course of one of the projects which my colleagues were doing together with representatives of the overnational structures of European Union, these representatives clearly stipulated that the Green Deal should be translated in Russian as Green Course, not to translate it as a Green Deal. Someone suppose that deal in the Russian language has a negative connotation, that's why it should be course. But this is the political issue, even in how this terminology should be translated from English into Russian. Once again, thanks, Dmitry, and let me turn the floor to Mr. Manish Kumar, the president of the corporation Soltex Group from India. Mr. Kumar, his titles, I will not enlist all of them, I just mention that he is in the head of Moscow Chamber of Commerce, in the segment of interaction between Russia and India. And also I would mention that Mr. Kumar is in Russia not just a guest or partner of our country, but he knows our country very good, very deeply. Mr. Kumar in 1991 graduated Moscow State University of Oil and Gas, named after Gubkin. Mr. Kumar, the floor is yours, please.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would rather speak in English because we have the large auditorium worldwide. Special regard to all the dignitaries on the podium, the delegates who are presented here, and all the viewers who are watching us online through the different platform. Today's, as our moderator already told, that we have the access to the Russian market since last 20 years. We are doing the active business in Russia for many, many years. So I think I'm in a position to little bit comment on the business scenario and the current post-pandemic and during the pandemic effect on the world economy. As we all know, after the pandemic, during the pandemic, the third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave is hitting many, many countries. And most of the countries are striving, surviving to revive their economies. And this current scenario, the whole Eurasian countries, which is having the GDP something around $900 billion, and where the Indian economy is valued at the $3 trillion economy, and very soon we will be entering in the club of $5 trillion economy within 5 years, which is the prognosis from the World Bank and from the different organizations. So in this scenario, what we see is India can play a huge role for the world economy and especially for the Eurasian economy. If talking about the post-pandemic effect in India, Indian population, more than 1 billion, is already vaccinated, which is a tremendous feat for the Indian government, because nobody believed that with the health infrastructure in India, India can achieve this. And all this has been done with the local manufactured vaccines, like Covaxin, like the Sputnik has also given the technology to India. So now, if we want to fight the current economic scenario, we need to have the collective immunization in the countries. That is the first. So here, India has reached a great leap. Indian Covaxin is already in the list of the WHO approved. So the Indian traveler with the Covaxin can travel all over the world. But now if we are talking about the Eurasian economical scenario, India has signed a free trade agreement with the Eurasian economical countries in 2017, which is still under the negotiation, which is not yet active. But what we see, the current trade business with the India and Eurasian countries is something around close to, if I cannot be very sure, but something around 14 to $15 billion. If we talk about the direct trade with Russia and India, is something around $7 to $8 billion turnover. At the same time, India is having the trade business with China, $90 billion, with European economy, more than $50 billion. So why not with the Russia, or why not with the Eurasian economy? So there is a pessimistic side of this scenario, and there is an optimistic side of this scenario. Pessimistic is, yes, we have not reached that level. Having the 70 years good trade relationship with the Russia and all the post-Soviet Union countries, and having such a good relations, having the status of the privileged partner, still we have not achieved that. But the positive part is there is a huge chances, huge room for the progress. So what we need and where the Indian economy is going today. So today, the new government has came on the board from last 2014, and they have done a remarkable recovery of the economic scenario of the India. So many old laws has been demolished. The new progressive laws are there, which allows, let's say, for the defense sector. When we talk about the defense sector, we always think, it is government to government deal. Only government should deal with the government. But this is not the case. Now the Indian government has allowed 100% FDI, foreign direct investment, for the private player. So if any company come with their innovative technology in India, and the total private sector is open for the defense, so they can join the hand and they can enter into any co-production, and the government will award 5-year contract, supply contract. So this is a huge area where the private company can look towards the India, because we are talking something about $14 to $15 business opportunity. Beside that, India is growing in an infrastructure field rapidly, like the China was doing 20, 25 years ago. So here, like Mr. Pankin was telling that, there is a huge money surplus for the infrastructure projects. So why not the Russian companies or the Eurasian countries companies who are sitting somewhere idle, they can grab in this opportunity, go to India, having the finance from these banks, and enter into the development story in India. Beside this, now the electric vehicle is a boom. For your information, more than 50 automakers from the worldwide, they are located in India. Why? Because the competitive edge with the production cost. And from the India, they are not having the big market, consumer market. Because today, who is the king? Who has the consumer market? Because the consumer market drives the whole economic scenario, like China, India, America, Russia. So today, India is having more than 450 million people who has the huge paying capacity. Just for information, the BMW has a 6 months queue to get the BMW car. So you can imagine what kind of paying capacity Indian people has now today. So grabbing that opportunity, the EV electric vehicles, there is a boom in Indian market because the government has already given the advisory to establish the more than 100,000 recharging stations, because many of the manufacturers are switching to the electrical vehicles. So these are the area why we are naming all these areas. Innovative technology for the startup, India is the best place now. If we talk about the FDI India attracts, it will be maybe the first top 3 countries, more than $100 billion is coming to India every year. So all these scenario, giving the cutting edge to India, and not only the one-way road. Other way, if we see the Indian companies, Indian supplies can come to the Eurasian market, which is, I just reminded you, that more than $900 billion market. And once the FTA is in a place, so after the FTA, we have to gear up now to grab this opportunity. So what we need, where is the problem? Why we are not reaching this kind of turnover, this kind of economic cooperation which we supposed to? First thing is now with the post-pandemic area, we need a traveling restriction has to be removed because having the Indian vaccine, one of the vaccine is approved by the WHO, but not all the vaccine is approved in the Russia and Eurasian community, countries. And the same, the Russian vaccine is not approved in India. So with the vaccinated people, if there is a travel restriction, if the business people cannot travel, it is very hard to, push the business mechanism. So both the government, all the government, they should think about how to smoothen up the whole system. Second, we are facing nowadays the huge logistic problem. And we want or we don't want, even the Russian president recently, he mentioned, because the logistic cost has gone 3 times, 4 times up. And we want or we don't want, it affects the whole economic scenario. So currently, India can reach to the Eurasian market and the European market through the new route, which is created through the Iran, that is the Silk Route. Earlier, it was not relevant because the cost was not at par, because for the other port of Russia, it was cheaper. Through the Iran, it was costlier. But now, scenario has changed. Through the Iran route, it's faster, it's cheaper. Third is all the hurdles regarding the certification, the custom issues. These issues has to be resolved. Fourth, I will name is the trade in the local currency, which we are striving since a long. Today, Mr. Chiriomi is not here, but we were together floating this idea on the mini platform to have the rupee-ruble trade or the any Euro-Asian countries trade, because it is hindering. Because if we want to choose the Iranian route, but if we trade in the US dollar, there is the risk of blocking your funds. So in this scenario, we need these instruments if we really want to achieve the economic progress. Naming all these issues, we are here, we are growing, and we want all the world companies to be present in India. It will not help only their own country, it will help the whole world economy to move, because India itself presents a huge consumer market. And from having the base in India, you can export it to many, many countries, because just naming 2 or 3 countries, India is having the very good diplomatic, economical relation with the whole world. So in this scenario, I will name one of the slogan from our Sanskrit. We always say, Vasudev Kutumbakam. It means that the whole world is our family. And we want the collective growth. We don't want our own growth, we want the collective growth. So for that, we are with you, we are here, we are ready. Thank you very much.
Mr. Kumar, thank you very much for your speech. Russia has been for many years in strategic and quite privileged partnership with India on the world stage. Our countries from Soviet times for Russia has been in category of partners for each other and friends. The last 30 years, we are now in BRICS format, and no doubt your country, your South Asian giant, is the country which in the 21st century, no doubt, gonna be more and more the world center of power and influence. And cooperation between us and the role of India in the Eurasian space is going to be no doubt growing, only growing. You've mentioned that we should be looking at different. One can be looking at the same things from optimistic or pessimistic points of view, and pessimism can be. People can be pessimistic because some indicators may draw the attention to. But you said that these indicators can also be the manifestation of the potential which is there. The way this potential will be used, of course, is it depends on certain people and organizations and companies. Of course, I would also like to underline that what links your speech to Dmitri's speech, you also said that the opportunities for investment, especially in big infrastructure projects, like never before, they are like never big like never before, and so one should take advantage of them. Thank you very much. Let me, in accordance with our program, give the floor to Artem Chaika, the president of the International Congress of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. The topic is taking part in development of Eurasian economic cooperation. So, as the important line of development of the International Congress of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, dear participants of the forum, let me greet you. I would like to start my speech with words of gratitude to the organizers for inviting our organization and also for preparation for this forum. And yeah, the gratitude from the management of our Congress. We support all the topics that you've provided, both for the plenary session and for the discussion panels. The further development of business cooperation on Eurasia is very important. Those speakers who've already had the floor, they've given the view of the objective circumstances in the Eurasian markets and the opportunities for growth. And first of all, the bank and finance structures, the interesting and prospective suggestions were made. The Congress is also ready to be part of finding the solutions and to counteract the negative things that have arisen inclusively during the pandemic. We would like to take part in the mutual plans. What the International Congress of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs can do? We are turning 30 years soon. We have created, in this difficult post-Soviet period, we've focused on consolidating the actions of our members. Our goals are to represent our structures, to further the constructive climate and some other current orientation points. We now have representation from 24 Eurasian countries from different spheres of economics. We cooperate with many international organization, also regional organization in Russia, in Central Asia, in Baltics, in the Far East. We are oriented towards solving certain integration problems. Speaking about the topics of today's forum, the potential of our Congress can be better used in the interests of the Eurasian partnership. We are fully open to this kind of actions. What we can suggest? First, we are keen on organizing the conferences and dialogues on the state of business climate in Eurasia. We can attract the authorities and the industries that are interested. Recently, we've held a conference on how to cooperate between the members of our Congress and the government of the city of Moscow, which is an international business center. We have prospective positions They are stated on our website. They will bring the benefits to both the territories where our members operate and the probable lines of development of the Moscow economics. We have the thematic events in Belarus, in Russia, in Korea, in Bulgaria, in a number of Russian regions. We've sent the suggestions to the interested structures. We will continue this kind of discussions further. We are now working on forming in Moscow the International Center for Economic Cooperation. We are hoping for its swift building, and we want to attract different stock exchanges and finance organizations to its work. Besides, we want to build a hotel complex and living quarters for the International Congress of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. I would also like to underline that the activities are being transformed now currently, and we are focusing on project program content. Yeah, we of course need to discuss the current problems. We need to further the regulatory frameworks, but we also have to answer the interests of certain business and industry structures. So we gather the suggestions of the interested regions, interested locales that are able to provide platforms for and help to manage the regulatory framework for the benefit, the mutual benefit of the region and the members of our Congress. We can see here good prospects of an effective future result if we concentrate together. If we concentrate on real priorities of the economics and the social needs, we already have. We can do a lot. We already have a lot of examples. For example, one of our members is taking part in building modern living complexes in different regions of Russian Federation. The groups of companies intermobility, they help to form logistic networks in the regions of Russia. There is also electro-transport development and the introduction of charging stations in Russian Federations. Quite actively, we are promoting these programs. To magnify the returns of the Eurasian cooperation, we need to focus on transport and logistics. The opportunities are hard to overestimate. One of the objects of our attention is a perennial project of constructing a channel from Azov to Caspian and Black Sea regions. Azerbaijan, Ukraine are interested, Russia is interested, some other Eurasian countries are interested. We've prepared projects. They are still under deliberation, but of course, many different structures should be involved in such projects. The closely related topic is transport initiatives of China, the Big Silk Road suggestions, the use of Arctic corridors. Understanding that any actual project has to have a solid financial base, we try to establish a good relationship with bank institutions of Eurasian Union. So, taking into account our time limits, the national and regional cooperations. We can see the Eurasian Economic Commission in the forefront here. Also BRICS, the Shanghai Organization of Development. We need some regulatory framework and beneficial tax policies. The international cooperation. The Greater Eurasia can have as a good basis the recent initiative of the Russian Union of Entrepreneurs of creating the. We are supporting them all very much, and we are ready to take part in the initiatives. Dear colleagues, thank you very much for your taking part here. We are very interested in all the problems that you are bringing up. Thank you very much. Artyom, thank you very much for your speech. It's very intense, very packed. You've talked about very considerable activities of the international MKPP, the International Congress of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs, and mentioned a number of prospective projects. The examples of how one can conduct kind of big activity in Russian infrastructure with involvement of Russian business, for example. There are a lot of questions. There are a number of countries that are centers of influence in regional or global. They judge big cross-border structures as one of the pillars of their influence in the world of the 21st century. You've mentioned the channel between the Caspian and Azov Sea area. We know about the plans of the second channel in Turkey, parallel to Bosphorus. We know the channel that can go through Venezuela in the Central America. That means through the countries of the Central America. What I mean here is Salvador and I think that taking into account how China, our neighbor, is promoting the mega project One Belt, One Way of the Silk Road. Russia could probably be in the following years be taking into account all these factors and becoming a bigger and more autonomous independent player in the infrastructure of the 21st century, not just adapting in those strategies that other countries develop, but also taking a more active role in this sphere. Once again, thank you, Artyom, for your speech. And let me pass the floor, according to our program, to Aidar Kalimtayevich Kazebayev, the head of the Office on Cooperation between the International Finance Center Astana and the Eurasian Economic Commission, the executive body of the Eurasian Economic Union. The topic is forming the business climate under the climate agenda, the new climate agenda. Please, Aidar, you have the floor. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for invitation. I'm very glad to take part in this forum. And from our International Financial Center Astana, from Kalimbetov, who's saying who's paying his respects to all the members of the forum, the participants. We can see that the program and the events, so the association is progressing actively. And today I'd like to present my vision on how the business agenda, on what the business agenda should form, according to how I see it, the closing of the positions, the finding the common ground for the Eurasian Union. Just a few days ago, the climatic summit in Glasgow, COP26, has finished, and the Glasgow Climate Pact has been signed. It gives us the points of orientation, some basic points of orientations, but many experts who've read this, there were more things weighted from this, but the main point of it, of this summit, has been that the countries should be taking actions on decarbonizations, the steps on making the green finance and green technology more available to developing markets, and also to increase the role of the international banks of development towards the green development and green economics. In this context, I would like to take point to bring your attention that we would like to discuss in the International Center by the Eurasian Bank of Development. Maybe we further the dialogue there. What are the zones that we can close in, but that we can bring together? The renewable sources of energy. So China is producing more than anybody else. We can see the big dependence. If the countries are developing the renewable sources of energy, we should be thinking on bringing the production lines to our countries, so that we magnify the production capacities. In the Eurasian Union, we discussed the questions of industrial cooperation. So I think we should be concentrating on low carbon cooperation, first of all. That's the part of the new agenda. I will repeat that in Glasgow agenda, in Glasgow Pact, there was no decision on blocking coal. That was vetoed by India and Russia, because Russia and Kazakhstan are one of the biggest producers of coal. So the question is not dropping its use, but of using it more safely. So the enriched coal, so that we use innovations on cleaner use of coal that would bring the quality of burning the coal to higher levels. Also, speaking of digitalization, the digitalization brings the increased energy consumption. That's why if we use the coal power station for crypto mining, that is not an option. That should be banned legally. That's my opinion, because the coal shall be used only when it's feasible for a region, for its economy and for its climate. These ideas that I'm first sounding is maybe we should create an international Eurasian consortium. This market will be developing on the hydrogen. It's 116 million tons, but only 2 tons is so-called green hydrogen. So the electrolysis method via a renewable power installation. Usually it's petroleum or gas companies. So we should be striving to switch to this green hydrogen. I think it's a very prospective way for the business community. Why consortium? Because it brings the scientific, industrial potentials together, the financial resources. This segment is the most expensive in the whole of the energetic sector. If you count the hydrogen energetic, that's the most expensive. But I think that's the temporary thing.
The innovations are moving forward, and in future the process of production of the hydrogen will go down. The technology of storage and catching of the greenhouse gases in the climate change, that's also the interest of our business, because there is also the taking down the costs of the reduction of the costs of natural gas. And in many countries of Europe and Japan, the technology of production of such equipment is subsidized by the government, because the technologies are quite new and they are not known for most of people, but they are having high perspectives. And that's why with the state-to-state foundations we must talk about this for establishment of such technologies of storage of the greenhouse gases. And the big potential is also the harmonization of our practice. We know that Russia and Kazakhstan and the whole world is moving to the establishment of the ESG culture, when the behavior of business and reports of business are according to the sociological, economic, and climate aspects. And in this context, I would like to discuss the question of establishment of ESG club, where the head of companies which have implemented the best reports are showing in the practice the achievements on ESG can share with others, because the competence is not sufficient, the demands are very high. In this context, we can continue our work, and introducing the financial club of Astana, we can say that we can become the platform for establishment of innovative projects. We have the 100,000 companies, we have the international law, and in the contest we have established, first of all, in the history of Eurasian expert bureau and jubilee bureau, and we are talking about the establishment of other integration companies. Why we talk about our facility? Because independent to the general legislation of Kazakhstan, we have the English commercial right, and we are like a neutral hub with all the comfortable conditions for the taxation and investment preferences. That's why I briefly explain my suggestions. I hope that you can see them on the screen. Thank you very much, and I wish you success, and we'll see each other in Moscow on the 2nd of December. Thank you very much. Aidar, thank you very much. We thank you for your speech. You have spoken about a very important topic, which is addressed by the whole world. You also spoke about the essence of what was taken off COP26 in Glasgow, but indeed the fact is the fact that how the energy transition will go, how the green agenda will be implemented into life in the nearest future, and the several years that will depend on different factors and different powers, how these or those states and the unions will protect the interests. We definitely know how much lithium, nickel, and rare metals are needed by this green transformation, and the specialists know what does mean the establishment of new solar batteries. Huge energy is needed for this. The new fields of the windmills, and recently I got acquainted to the news that in the Upper Languedoc in France, the people of one village won the court on a very big sum of money from the company which installed the windmills and wind turbines, because the people in this village recently suffered degradation of physical and psychological health. So there is a very difficult knot of problems and questions. Very important topic is the hydrogen. You told us about the green hydrogen, you mentioned also the gray hydrogen. I remind you that recently France and 8 or 9 countries of East Europe added to Eurocommission the suggestion that the nuclear energy and the natural gas should be included into the category of energy sources which can be developed in the as a part of the green transition. It's very interesting how that will continue the how this initiative will develop, because we talk about the yellow or blue hydrogen, the production of which is also quite ecologically pure and clean, but not super expensive as production of the green hydrogen. Thank you very much. Following our agenda, let me turn the floor to Federico Föders, the President of the International Economic Senate in Berlin. The topic of his speech is the focus of development of the international trade in due course of the Industrial Revolution, robotization and digitalization. So I kindly ask Mr. Föders to take the floor. Mr. Föders, you were on the screen, but what's with the sound?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now,
Okay, thank you
now we
so
hear you.
much. I'm very proud to be here, very honored. Thank you very, very much for inviting me to this very important forum. What I will do is give a talk on the future of world trade, how I see it, and I hope that we can share some of the ideas that I have put together. Now I must see if I can move. Yeah. So the first thing would be, let me find the right slide. I'm the president of the International Wirtschaftsforum, as Wirtschaftssenat, as we call it in German. And this is an association of middle-sized enterprises that look to cooperate in the sense of sharing some common values related only to business. Yes. So as you know, business is based on trust, and this is what we are going for. Yes. So we are really looking for trust among business leaders. So this is the main goal of this organization. We of course deal with globalization, and we can see what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages of the current status of globalization. Now, I have a problem with my slides somehow. Well, now it's better. I hope that you can see it. Okay, so the most important thing in this organization is that we want to take a look at the problems and the challenges that are shared. Yes, where we have a global responsibility as a business community, and when we interact with the people at large, and of course with politics. Now, this is what happened during the pandemic. World trade just had a very strong blow, as you can see here. And we are now trying to recover in most parts of the world. And the World Trade Organization that has presented this graph has also presented a number of forecasts, but nobody knows how the economy is going to develop over the next 12 months. We have seen a number of forecasts from different organizations, and they're all very, very well, very much related to probabilities, and nobody knows how those probabilities are going to develop. What we know for sure is why this downturn happened. Well, governments reacted to the pandemic by locking down economic, cultural, and civic activities, and by closing borders and interrupting business travel and tourism. And of course, if you interrupt production, then world trade also has to be interrupted. So the great question is, when are we going to recover? And what is going to happen, for example, with supply chain? Well, what are the challenges that we are facing now? Of course, we have to recover. Global production and trade has to recover. The second one, and I think Glasgow has been mentioned already several times, is the climate change problems that we face. We are all trying to decarbonize the economy, which means that we have to find a place to hide carbon dioxide, right? So here we need the right technologies. And now I come to the role for digitization and robotics, which is the current industrial revolution, and where we hope to find the solution to most of our problems. The old style automation was a great threat to workers who did things with their hands, right? And this happened in the sector of manufacturing, the sector of agriculture. So machine tools, robots, and good software, they kind of substituted hand work. Of course, you cannot do it to 100%, but you can do it to a great share. And what is the difference between the old style automation and the new style automation? We now have a threat to workers who do things with their heads, yes, in the service sector. So the robots that we have today, the software, the internet, artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented reality, machine learning, all those technologies, yes, they allow us to substitute people by machines and by software. And as you know, modern software with machine learning and artificial intelligence can really do a lot of thinking, yes? Things that we thought are going to be a monopoly for human beings. So what happens now? Through the internet, we can communicate very well with people on the other side of the world, yes? And we can also employ people in very distant places because they do their work and send us the result of their work through the internet. So these things are changing very fast. And the great question is, how will we unleash this great potential of digital technology in the global economy? My opinion on this topic is that we need more regional integration. Yes, Eurasia and European Union, the US, China, and so on. We need all these groups to come together, yes, to reduce tariffs and non-tariff barriers, and particularly to cooperate globally in the development of digital technologies. We will see, and this is my forecast, that future trade, global trade, will be more about services and not so much about merchandise. Of course, there will be still a lot of potential for merchandise trade, but the greatest potential will be in the services trade. Why? well, services matter more for GDP and employment than merchandise production. So that is why the composition of world trade is very likely to change in favor of services. And we will also see that the gains from trade will be correlated with the application of digital technologies. So how do we untap this potential? By signing new free trade agreements on merchandise and services, by creating incentives for business and science cooperation, for example, in Eurasia and the European Union, in the development of digital technologies and shared technical standards. So we need to continue with the invention, with the further development of these technologies, but we also need to share standards, technical standards, so that we can change very much. This is very important. And by creating incentives for an application of new digital technologies in the area of climate change, we will be able to reduce carbon emissions quite a lot. So this is the great potential that I see here. And my core message is that we need much more cooperation between the business communities in the European Union on the one hand, in Eurasia on the other hand. And of course, we still have other parts of the world that are also very interesting partners for our goal, which is to develop digital technologies and to solve the great challenges that the world is facing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.
For your speech, you have touched the macro and macro topics. Your first graph was dedicated to these curves of the world trade before pandemic, during pandemic. There are scenarios and forecasts for future. We must remember that the world before pandemic was growing slower than the general growth of the global GDP, would also cause the thoughts that indeed the new reality is making the roots, and the speed of the growth of trade were also behind. And you also raised the question that the modern trends are the import substitution, localization, the offshore, and this is what many specialists name the element of deglobalization. And let me also, because of this, to share fully your speech, your point that reglobalization is possible through regionalization. You also gave example of Eurasian Economic Union and European Union, which is in a state of technical negotiations and consultations. But it's clear that this level is not corresponding to expectations of Eurasian Economic Union and of many business structures in the European Union. And the last what you mentioned is the automatization, the robotization, and you also called all this a new technological, new industrial revolution. And I remind that when this industrial revolution was happening in the beginning of the 19th century, that led to the massive shift of levelers. People destroyed the machines which were pushing out the professions, and that's very interesting. the vacancies from the labor markets of the new technologies, and that can lead to social tension in some countries and in the world generally. And I think that the new industrial revolution will be also significant social problem and social challenge. Thank you very much. And let me, according to our agenda, to turn the floor to Dmitry Cheltsov, Deputy General Director and GR Director of the Association of European Business.
Дмитрий Юрьевич вместе
So Dmitry is joining us from here, from offline. The topic is the opportunities for the European companies in the context of the Eurasian integration. So Dmitry, please, you have the floor. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, the participants of the forum, it's a great honor for me to have the floor today here, representing the Association of European Business, which is one of the main, which is main representative of the foreign investors in the Russian Federation. Joins together more than 500 companies, and as well, I would like to underline that these companies are maintaining its activities not just in Russian Federation, but in the countries of the Eurasian Union and on the territory of the bigger Eurasia. I would like to say that one of the most important lines of work of the Association of the European Business is the collaboration on forming the rational regulatory framework, the collaboration in making Russia more interesting in terms of investment, and attracting the foreign investment and foreign cooperation to Russia. I think that the state of the global economy reflects on the scale of those challenges that countries and companies face nowadays at their current stage of development. In the period of quite complicated geopolitical situation and the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic, which showed the vulnerability of global logistic chains, we all are now pondering what we should do in order to ensure the sustainable development of economics in the future. That microphone doesn't work, sorry. Sorry, we have a small technical issue. So now we have the microphone. Thank you very much for your support. So notwithstanding the political difficulties, the trade between the countries of the Eurasian Union and the European Union is one of the main factors, is the most important factor, and the stimulus for our cooperation. Of course, under the influence of the pandemic, we can see the lowering of the financial and trade activities. But if we look at the numbers, for the first 9 months of the current year, the export was $133 billion, which virtually equals the whole of the 2020. So there has been growth. So the Eurasian Union is potentially 182 million of consumers. This market is quite attractive for European producers, including automobile manufacturers, the machines, and some other goods. At the same time, the export of crude oil from the Eurasian Union have the leading positions in the European Union. As I've already mentioned, the European companies that work at the Russian market are the main investors into the Russian economy. I should underline that many companies have successfully localized their production in Russia, so they can not just producing for the local market, but also export with the marking made in Russia in the countries of the former Soviet Union and the faraway countries. For example, the company working in Vsevolozhsk has been producing more than 60 million tires for cars each year. 60% are exported into 40 countries of the world. Around 2 million items are exported to the United States of America. Many other companies have localized their production lines and export to other countries. For example, Cargill company, which in Volgograd Oblast, the southern region of Russia, they produce the sunflower seed oil and they export it to India. The Ferrero company, the chocolate manufacturer in Vladimir Oblast, they send their products to Brazil. They export their products to Brazil. Apart from that, they create the high technology production lines in Eurasian Union countries that inbuilds them in global supply chains oriented on the global market needs. The transport potential can't be overestimated, especially taking into the account the incident in the Suez Channel with the Evergreen ship. So the merchandise flows from the Eurasian Union to European Union has been growing all the time. We have the difficulties in this period when we don't have enough volumes for transportation, so we have queues at the borders because this period of the forced calm, it has so there has been accumulated an enormous amount of transports that has been waiting to be delivered. The Eurasian Union has a great potential for transporting the goods between China and Europe, European Union. As an example, I would like to give you an example that, for example, sending from Narvik port in Norway to Shenzhen in China, it's approximately 15 days. It's almost 3 times less than transporting the goods by a traditional sea route. Now we have the railroad and car transport or truck transport. There was the initiative of Chinese People's Republic on the One Belt, One Road, the Silk Road initiative. They are trying to inbuild into the already existing infrastructure, and they're trying to upgrade it and redevelop it. And many countries, for example in Kazakhstan, are working about it. There is a route via the territory of the country, which probably nowadays it must have been finished already. It was one of the priority tasks. At the time, we were actively cooperating with Kazakh counterparts on bringing this project to fruition. I should note that the considerable potential for cooperation between the countries of the Eurasian Economical Union and European Union lies in the plane of easing the cross-border flows. The ecological agenda, a very important point there is the plans of the European Union on transborder regulation, the carbon transborder regulation. So Russia exporting this kind of goods to European Union, that can be up to 20% of the goods that Russia exports. So that can be under this carbon transborder regulations. But in the short term, the transfrontier tax, probably 80% of cost of the Eurasian Economic Union exports to European Union can be under this tax. So 80% of cost of exports. So we've decided to create working teams on adapting the Russian economy to the global energetic change. The experts from different companies, they've been included in this working groups, and also the restructurization of energetics. And the European business plans to take big parts in the work of this working group. The import substitution aims at providing a good national product which is able to compete globally, or at least regionally. We've been looking on the tendency on limiting state supplies buying in different countries, so limiting the foreign participants in these tenders, unfortunately. So there is the principle. The second is is not needed. So on the electronics and the medical equipment, somehow they got the MRT and tomographic machines, they've been under this electronics ledger. Also pharmaceutical products. So in times when many political contacts are made more complicated, the furthering of business connections can be the bridge, the platform on furthering the prospects of cooperation and discussing the questions that provide mutual interest for the countries. I would note from my practice that Association of the European Business before the pandemic, virtually every year we've been organizing the visits of the representatives of federal ministries and also the members of the college, like the customs corporations. So we helped organize the visits to the production lines and platforms in Europe, for example, in Germany, Italy, and Austria. And we also regularly held the meetings with ministers and heads of departments of ministries on the platform of our association, and we invite usually not to just pay attention on the existing problems, but we also draw the attention to the possible ways of solving these problems. At this current moment, the cooperation between the European Union and the Eurasian Economic Union probably doesn't go outside of the framework of the technical regulations, but I think, or it is considered that mutual interest exists in extending the spheres of cooperation, where both the European Union and Russia could effectively cooperate in terms of social dialogue. For example, the higher level of harmonization of pharmaceutical market, the projects on the electronics agenda, the customs administration and transports and tax harmonization, and mutual recognition of protocols of tests for different merchandise products. So many people in our association, they think that the absence of these mechanisms, they are not in long-term interests of the European union in the space of the bigger Eurasia. Dear colleague, I would like to underline that Association of European Businesses, for all of its history, in different times, has been for the furtherance of regional integration. So there was a question here today whether the globalization is over, and it's time for regionalizations. But I think that the global economy lives along with the economical cooperation on regional integration levels. That's probably the way that we should follow, because whether we want it or not, the economy is global. There is no discussion about it. As an example, I would like to give you the practice of Volvo assembly line, which has more than 10,000 components and details that are supplied by more than 1,500 suppliers. The optimization of the buy-ins and the assembly itself, of this product or other complex products, they are looking for the optimal ways of production and supplies. So probably unfortunately or fortunately, the global character of the economy will be maintained. I hope that we will go outside of the framework of just the technical regulation with our partners from the European Union, and we probably will find the way to go over the barriers and find ways for further cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention. Dmitry, thank you for your speech. It is indeed the topic of globalization through regional integration projects is the magistral, so the major topic in the works of analysts on integration. There is a bifurcation point that this regionalization will go too far. There may be a world existing of the regional orders that will be complementary but will be antagonistic in other competition and antagonisms in other regards. So these bifurcation points, they will be, of course, solved by the decision of the policymakers, both on the state level, on the regional level, and on the certain companies level. So the iron logic of determinism is absent here. So it's things that are influenced by the decisions on many different levels. There has been a topic of the problems that has arisen in the last year, the sea lane, the sea routes. So these problems, they showed the big potential of transporting on land, inclusively on the territory of the Eurasian Economic Union. The Russian ports are overburdened on 30–40%. That's from what I remember. I think because precisely they were at their high capacity, and the question is now being discussed on the highest levels in Russia. The programs are on modernizing both the Trans-Siberian and Baikal-Amur train lines. And once again, your speech has been very much about the cooperation between the European Union and Eurasian Economic Union. I think that topic should be one of the priority for the closest years in the activities of these two regional structures. The last thing, in the name of your speech, there is the name European companies, but I would like to use this concept that in the European Union there are companies that are European Union companies, not just national companies in EU. I think in Eurasian Economic Union there has been introduced a status of a Eurasian company, which has been discussed for many years already, and I hope that this is probably this is a lever, an extra tool, an extra instrument to help the space of the Eurasian Economic Union to be more connected, more and more mutually integrated. The business interests of can be taken to even higher level in this. So let me please thank all of our speakers today. Today, because of the infrastructural project reasons, because there was a plane that came late. Unfortunately, Sergei Cheryomin couldn't take part here in our discussion, and we are passing to the next part of our program. Let me pass the floor to Alexander Borechev to award the Business Elite of Eurasia Award and to award the diplomas by the sponsors of our forum. Please, Alexander. Thank you, Alexei. Dear colleagues, we have this pause in kind of a festive note. We are very grateful. We very much thank our sponsors who gave us the financial support to organize this event. The Moscow International Economic and Financial Forum. I would like to give virtually this award to the International Council on Gold, that's the Great Britain, the member of the Bureau of the FBA, Mr. Manish Kumar. Will we have the connection? Oh, yeah, here we have it. We are very glad to meet you here, Mr. Jean. You're now in London, aren't you? We can't hear you, sorry.
No, we are not hear you. I'm not here. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Please let me give you an award with the gratitude for the many years of cooperation of the FBA EAC. The award will be given to you when it's comfortable to you, so you can receive it. We hope for the further cooperation in the interest of both of our esteemed organizations.
Thank you much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I really wish I could be here. I really appreciate the award, and like I say, I'm looking forward to speaking in person and seeing you in Moscow as soon as possible. So thank you again.
Thank you much, John. Мы также вручим.
We will also give the award of our sponsor to our good partner. We will give it during the session, though. This is the diploma that we will give to Mr. Kotlowski, the first president of FBA EAC. He will join us in half an hour, and we will award this diploma and the statuettes during the session. So now I will pass to giving an award. So you probably know that every year the FBA EAC is giving these statuettes, these awards, exclusive, very beautiful statuettes. You can see them there. They will be given to our laureates. The first ceremony took place on the 30th of November 2017, so for the first year. There are 30 leading financial business economic structures from Russia, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Kyrgyzstan, Taiwan, Uzbekistan. The winners were given this exclusive, the author-made statuettes with the depiction of a bee, the symbol of working hard, rationality, and the material that has been used is the bronze, gold, silver, and obsidian. And the organizational committee this year has decided to make 3 nominations and only give the golden ones. So these nominations, the paragon of stability, the social responsibility, and the technological innovation. So the paragon of stability, the golden bee, is given to the Russian Union of Entrepreneurs and Industrialists. I asked Mr. Manisha to be part because I wouldn't be so I can receive this awards from the hands of Mr. Manish. I will give it to pass to Alexander Shokhin. Unfortunately, he couldn't take part. He's preparing for the meeting of the President of the Russian Federation. But I will be glad to pass the award.
So, dear colleagues, I kindly remind you that the Russian Union of Entrepreneurs Industrial was founded on the 19th of December. It is celebrating 30-year anniversary. This is symbolically to get this award in the year of the 30-year anniversary of the organization. This organization, which within all these years achieved a lot of projects and programs, and that unites more than 100 regional and industrial unions, introducing the key parts of the economy. And this is the energy fields, machinery, and defense, construction, chemical, lights, then services, and other. And in our union, we have more than several thousand of the biggest Russian companies, which are introducing the science, commercial sphere, and our department allocated in all the regions of the Russian Federation. That's why I think that it will be, and this award is noble, and definitely we will give it in the solemn atmosphere to the head of our chamber in the festival dedicated to the 30th anniversary. Dear colleagues, in the nominee of technological breakthrough, the implementation of technological innovative solutions, the committee has taken decision to give the golden statue to the international company laboratory of Kaspersky. Just a couple of words you have heard, and this famous international world leading company, which is working in the sphere of information safety, of digital privacy since 1997. And that's a big expert base, many-year experience of the team in the company, and they provide the safety of making the business all over the world. Also, the critically important structures, bodies, and the simple users. And the big portfolio of the lab of Kaspersky includes the breakthrough products for the protection of the end devices and specialized services and solutions for the struggle against the difficult rapidly changing threats. The technology of the lab of Kaspersky is protecting more than 400 million users all over the world and 240,000 corporate customers in the whole world. For respected reason, they cannot be presented today, but in this award we will give in the present forum in the separate session, which will be held after our plenary meeting. And we congratulate our colleagues with such an award, and I think that will find a noble place, dignity place in the lab of Kaspersky. Let's applause, dear colleagues. Let's applause. And the nominal of social responsibility, there was a Finnish company, Metso Autotech. This is a Finnish company. This is world leaders in technologies of sustainable development and the key solutions and services applied in the branch of the processing of the minerals, metal industry, and ores. And with these new solutions expertise, the company is improving the energy efficiency and increases the productivity of the entities and diminishing the necessity into the water resources and ecological risks. That's why here we also have the opportunity to give the award. Someone from Metso Autotech, the representative Metso Autotech. Thank you very much. In the name of the company Metso Autotech, we express our gratitude for the organizers, for the sponsors, the partners of this event, and we also wish fruitful event for all the participants. Thank you very much. From your permission of Alexei, we are finishing our plenary part. And that's why, dear colleagues, I thank all for the participation in the plenary session, and I announce 30 minutes break for lunch, and I invite everyone for the future work in the frame of the panel session. We hope it will be very interesting. Thank you very much.